Hello and good morning. Welcome to the FoodRx live workshop. This one is called Feed Your Brain, Change Your Future. My name is Pam Sano, and I am a certified nutrition coach and the founder of Fit at 55, where we prioritize holistic health and wellness for women over 50. I'm also your host for today's workshop, and I'm really happy that you've joined me. So, a little bit about me before we get started. I struggled with my weight all my adult life, anywhere from a little chubby to borderline obese. And this is what I looked like in 2016. So I would lose a little bit here and there, gain more back, lose a little more, gain even more back. And then in 2018, I finally thought that I had cracked the code on weight loss, and I lost 40 pounds and I looked a lot better. This is me in 2019, but I still wasn't healthy. My nutrients were all out of balance. We're not even going to talk about my sodium intake. And all I really cared about was counting calories back then. I didn't really become passionate about nutrition as medicine until just 2 years ago, after someone very close to me was diagnosed with cancer. And throughout all the ensuing medical appointments, and there were a lot with several different physicians, not a single one of them ever asked about her diet and nutrition, not what she ate, when, etc. And I was appalled by that, and I was pretty upset. So I started doing my own research, and I found that on average, med schools spend a mere 1.2 hours on nutrition. That's it, 1.2 hours. Although good news, over 50 med schools have committed just last month in March to expanding that to 40 hours. So that is definitely progress, but it still isn't enough. And that's what this workshop series is all about. Each workshop will focus on a different aspect of how nutrition impacts our health and well-being. So with that said, I am not a doctor, so this should not be interpreted as medical advice. I am not suggesting, I am a big proponent of nutrition as medicine, but traditional Western medicine does have its place. I'm not proposing that you go and throw out all your medications and flush them down the toilet, not at all. But we will be talking about how our food and our nutrition can impact our overall health. So today we're going to talk specifically about how nutrition can impact and affect our brain health and function. And be sure to stay all the way to the end, because there's 2 handouts that I've created for you that I'll give, but you have to stay to the end to get them. We'll be about 30 minutes, give or take, today. So let's start with a little chuckle. Are you ready? A brain walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender says, "I'm sorry, I can't serve you. You are out of your head." Okay, I'm sorry. It's okay to groan. But seriously, though, have you walked into a room recently and completely forgotten why you're there? Yeah, of course you have. Welcome to the club. Membership is free after 40. So here's the thing. Brain fog, forgetfulness, low energy, we often blame these on simply getting older, and they certainly can be signs of aging, but they can also be mitigated because more often they're actually fuel problems. So today we're going to fix that. The fuel problem, I mean. The age problem, nothing we can do about that. So let's talk about what's actually happening in the brain. Your brain is only about 2% of your overall body weight, but it uses 20% of your energy. And that's because it's constantly repairing cells, sending signals to the rest of your body. It's managing our moods, managing memory, and it's very sensitive to blood sugar swings, inflammation, and nutrition deficiencies. So, translation, what you eat today literally affects how you think tomorrow. So, let's break this down simply, because I think once we understand what's going on behind the scenes, then fixing it will become a lot easier. So, there are 3 main things that tend to cause brain fog, low energy, and just really not feeling quite right feeling. So, number 1 is the blood sugar roller coaster, and this is a big one. If your meals are comprised mostly of quick carbs and refined sugars, things like toast, cereal, crackers, donuts, muffins, then your blood sugar will rise quickly for that quick energy boost, but then it'll also drop just as fast. And that drop is where the problems start. You feel foggy, tired, maybe a little irritable, and your brain starts saying, "Hey, where's that sugar?" So it starts to crave more sugar and caffeine. That is a vicious, unstable cycle, and our brains hate instability. Our brains run on glucose, but it needs a steady supply, not a spike and crash cycle all day long. There's a book called Willpower that I really like. I'm going to link it in the comments below this after we're done here. This is a book by Roy Baumeister and John Tierney, and they've compiled a lot of studies surrounding willpower and glucose and energy. But they describe a particular research study that helps explain this phenomenon. So, participants were asked to complete mentally demanding tasks, things that required intense focus, discipline, and self control. Afterward, they measured their ability to make good decisions and found that it dropped after they were required to perform those tasks because their willpower was basically depleted. But as soon as their glucose levels were restored, their performance improved. Your brain is constantly using energy to focus, to make decisions. Fun fact, the average adult makes about 35,000 decisions per day. I mean, talk about decision fatigue, which, by the way, is a real thing. Your brain has to keep you on track, and it has to help you resist cravings and temptations. So when your blood sugar is unstable, when it's spiking and crashing, your brain isn't getting a consistent fuel source. And when you're crashing, that's when it shows up as brain fog, lack of focus, mental fatigue. I think about sitting at your desk at 10 o'clock in the morning. Your breakfast is long gone, lunch is far away, and you're kind of nodding off and you can't keep your train of thought. That's the crash. So how do we fix that? Well, we can start by stabilizing our blood sugar by building what I call anchor meals. Every meal you have, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, should be comprised of protein, fiber, and healthy fat. So every time you eat, try to incorporate all three. So, for example, maybe for breakfast, you make some eggs and include some sauteed spinach, top it with avocado, which, by the way, is delicious. Maybe for a mid-morning snack, you get some Greek yogurt and top it with berries and chia seeds. Maybe for a main meal, you have some baked chicken topped or on top of quinoa and roasted vegetables. All three of those examples, I mean, you don't have to copy these exactly, but all three of those examples incorporate a healthy protein, lean protein, a good fiber source, and a healthy fat. At the end of the workshop, one of those two handouts I'm going to give you is a link to a free 3-day Brain Boost nutrition pairings cheat sheet. So it'll give you some ideas for all three meals plus healthy snacks for 3 days. Pairing foods like this helps to slow digestion, which increases your satiety, which is just a fancy way of saying keeps you fuller longer. It helps keep your blood sugar steady. And as such, it gives your brain that consistent fuel source that we were talking about. Okay, number 2 that causes brain fog is chronic inflammation. So this one's a little bit more subtle, but it's just as important. And it's a little more subtle because it's not always as obvious because you don't necessarily feel it the way you'd feel a blood sugar crash or a pulled muscle, say. But internally, low-grade inflammation can interfere with how your brain cells communicate. So think of your brain like a network of billions of tiny messengers constantly sending signals back and forth. It's saying, focus on this, or hey, remember that, or stay alert now. So those signals need to move quickly and clearly. But when inflammation is present, it's like adding static to the signal. So the messages don't necessarily stop, but they become slower, they become a little fuzzier and less efficient. And then over time with chronic inflammation, these fuzzy messages become the least of our worries because it can lead to higher risk of diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, anxiety, and depression. And chronic inflammation is unfortunately pretty common, not just as we age, but just in modern life. It can be caused by lots of things, but the most common lifestyle drivers are poor sleep, smoking, obesity, and of course, poor diet. And those things are unfortunately things that a lot of us suffer from. Make matters worse, our diets too often consist of highly processed foods and excess sugars. Processed foods like frozen meals, as an example. Brands like Smart Ones or Weight Watchers, not to pick on them, there's lots of them out there. They are convenient, and they're often marketed as portion controlled or low calorie, but many of them are still highly processed, which means they contain refined ingredients, they have added sugars or added sodium, they have preservatives and lower quality fats. So they're made with those so that number one, they'll taste good and you'll eat them and keep coming back to them. Number two, so that they can withstand extreme temperatures of sitting in your freezer and being transported from factory to store. And number three, to increase their shelf life. So while they're convenient and they can fit into a busy lifestyle, they're not always giving your brain the consistent, high quality fuel that it needs. Now, if you do need to use something like this, like a frozen meal, try to upgrade it by adding a side of leafy greens. Maybe top it with a healthy fat, either olive oil or avocado, or extra protein if needed and if that's available. So the goal isn't necessarily to never eat these foods, although if you can avoid them, that is ideal. But it's really just more about not relying on them as your primary source of nutrition. And then there are the foods with excess sugars. Now, some of these are obvious, of course, like soda, candy, cookies, ice cream. But beware of those sneaky sources like the flavored coffee drinks, fruit juices. Even when it's 100% fruit juice, it's still high in sugar, especially if you drink a lot of it. Sweetened yogurt, granola, cereal, even some protein bars. Become a label reader, become an aficionado, and know what's in the food you're buying. Sugar can be snuck into everyday foods like salad dressings, ketchup, barbecue sauce. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. This is a barbecue sauce. And again, not to pick on Sweet Baby Ray's because a lot of them look like this label. But right here, the added sugars, 32%, that's a lot. 32% is what they're saying you should have in an entire day in 2 tablespoons of this Sweet Baby Ray's. Now, I don't know about you, but we like to eat pork at my house. And so we will use this occasionally, but we have to be really judicious in how we use it because that's a lot of extra sugar. Okay, now I want to show you another one real quickly here. And this one really bummed me out. Back in the day, before I was really watching nutrition as medicine, I loved my Noosa. This is a Noosa label. And this 260 calories for the whole container, 11 grams of protein. That's actually the one saving grace here. Fiber, 1 gram. That's terrible. We should be eating a lot more than that per meal. But look at the sugars. Added sugars, 36% of our daily recommended value. 36%. That's a lot. So my point is just be really cognizant of what the food label says, what you're ingesting. I have a fun exercise for you. As soon as this workshop is over, I want you to go to your kitchen, pull a can out of your cabinet, and take a look at the label, or take a bottle of salad dressing or something else out of your fridge and look at the label and answer these questions. How many calories is it? How many grams of protein? How many grams of fiber, added sugars, etc. So to make it easier, I'm including what I'm calling a red flag label check worksheet for you. And that link will be in the description below this video as soon as we're done here. So when you're looking at your food labels after this workshop, use these guidelines. If you're reasonably active, you should aim for about a half a gram of protein per pound of your weight per day. So, just to math a little bit, if you weigh 150 pounds, then you should be shooting for about 75 grams of protein. So I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're reasonably active, that's what it takes. We should also be aiming for about 50 grams of fiber per day. And by the way, some great sources of fiber: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So, we just talked about a lot of bad news, but here's the good news. We can reduce the interference of that inflammation with what we eat every day. We just need to eat more anti inflammatory foods consistently. So, focus on adding leafy greens, berries, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, olive oil, and again, nuts and seeds. These simple shifts matter. Try swapping processed snacks for whole foods. Oh my gosh, do you remember? I don't know if they still make them anymore, but they came in little plastic packages and they had a little cellophane topper you peeled off, and it had some processed cheese and then like 3 or 4 crackers, and that was supposed to be healthy, cheese and crackers. Yeah, I don't know if they still make those anymore, but yeah, if you have any of those, throw them away. Just get rid of them. Swap it for just a handful of nuts. You'll be fuller, you'll feel better, and it's a lot healthier for you. Okay, getting off the soapbox. Try cooking more meals at home. Now, I'm not saying never go out to eat, but it's really a lot harder to know what you're actually eating when a lot of your meals are coming from restaurants or takeout, especially even if you're trying to make a good choice, because you really don't know what sugars they're adding. You don't know what oils they're using, how much sodium they're adding. And by the way, the portion sizes are usually way bigger than what we actually need. So that healthy salad from Applebee's, loaded with dressing and toppings, might actually end up with more calories than a burger would. That stir fry that looks so healthy because it's got all those vegetables, often cooked in oils you wouldn't use at home because they're not very healthy, and they might use a lot more of it. So again, I'm not saying never go out to eat, just create your baseline at home so that going out is the exception and not the foundation. Lastly, add color to your plate. And no, I am not talking about Cheetos. I'm talking about whole foods. The colors in whole foods come from phytochemicals, which have antioxidant properties that help with bringing inflammation down. And they also offer protection. They offer protection against the risk of a lot of diseases. So they also help with neutralizing free radicals, which can damage our DNA. We're going to talk about free radicals a little bit more in the next section. So just to wrap this part up, I don't want you to think of this as going on a diet. Diet's a 4-letter word, and we don't use 4-letter words around here, right? Hell no. I'm just kidding. Think of it as lowering the background noise in your body so that your brain can simply function better. Okay, number 3, nutrient gaps. And this is a big one too. And this is one that a lot of people don't see coming, not because we don't want to eat healthy, but we may just not understand the nutrient composition of our foods. So, in other words, you can be eating enough food, but you're still not getting what your brain actually needs. So, some of the most common nutrient gaps are omega-3 fatty acids. These fats make up nearly 60% of our brain, and they are critical for building cell membranes, for reducing inflammation, and maintaining our cognitive function. Great sources of omega-3s are salmon, sardines, mackerel. If you don't like fish, try some non-fishy foods like walnuts, flaxseed, chia seeds. And these are stupid simple to incorporate. Just throw them on a salad, throw them in your smoothie, throw them on top of your oatmeal in the morning. Easy, easy. B vitamins is another common gap. B vitamins come from our eggs, our leafy greens like spinach and kale, beans and lentils, and whole grains like quinoa, oats, and brown rice. Other sources are chicken and turkey. Again, super easy to incorporate into your meals. And the third one is antioxidants. So these are things like berries, especially blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, dark leafy greens, dark chocolate, you're welcome. Colorful vegetables like bell peppers, carrots, beets, broccoli, and green tea. So let's zoom in on antioxidants for a minute, because I kind of just dropped that word. Your brain cells, your neurons, remember how I said those omega 3s make up almost 60% of your brain? Well, those fatty acids help to build cell membranes, and as such, they control what gets in and out of your cells. They also control how your cells communicate and how quickly those signals travel. So the structure of those membranes is very important. But here's the problem. Every day, your body produces something called free radicals. These are unstable molecules that essentially steal electrons from other cells. So, some of these free radicals are produced naturally in your body during normal metabolism. That's unavoidable. But we're also exposed to additional sources every day, including air pollution, cigarette smoke, including secondhand smoke, UV exposure, highly processed foods, excess sugars, alcohol, even chronic stress. When these free radicals target brain cells, they can damage those fatty outer layers that are so critical in a process called oxidation. This leads to oxidative stress, and I promise this is as sciencey as it's going to get. But oxidative stress happens when your body has more free radicals than it can neutralize. The antioxidants help to neutralize those free radicals before they can damage the cell membrane. So they essentially step in and say, no, take my electron instead. And they stop an unhealthy chain reaction. So instead of cell damage, you get stronger, more flexible cell membranes, better communication between brain cells, and faster, clearer signaling, all of which helps to support your memory, focus, and overall brain resilience. So antioxidants are what actually help to protect the physical structure of your brain cells. And here's how we fix it with food. So we're going to think of this in terms of targeted additions. We're gonna add omega 3s. We're going to add B vitamins, and we're going to add, of course, the antioxidants. So a very simple goal here would be to add at least one brain supporting food to every meal. Okay, let's move on to the next section. This is called the best foods for brain health. So we've talked a bit about some of the best sources for the nutrients that our brains need, but we're going to look at a little bit more detail in this section. And by the way, that second handout that I have for you at the end is called Brain Booster Foods. It's everything I'm going to talk about here and then some. And don't forget about the handout called the 3-day Brain Boost Meal Plan. So be sure to stay to the end. Anyway, back to the good stuff. So as I said, we've talked about a lot of this already, but I want to address these again since they're some of the best foods that we can find for our brains. And luckily, by the way, they're also very tasty. Number 1, berries, especially blueberries. Why they matter? They are loaded with those antioxidants that we talked about, which remember help to reduce the oxidative stress in the brain. And as such, they're linked to improved memory. So think of berries as little bodyguards for your brain cells. Number 2, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, even tuna on a limited basis. Why they matter? They're rich in omega 3s. And as such, they are essential for that brain structure and communication. And they help support our memory and support our mood, our balancing our moods. Remember, your brain is about 60% fat. So the type of fat you eat really matters. Number 3, leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula. Why they matter is they're high in vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants. And these all help to slow cognitive decline. Sorry about that. These are like daily maintenance for your brain. So load up on those leafy greens. They are good for us in so many ways. Number 4, healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, and nuts. And why they matter? They improve blood flow to our brain. They support those cell membranes like we talked about, and they help to stabilize energy. The fat doesn't make you foggy, bad fuel does. Eating good fats actually helps to sharpen things up. Number 5, dark chocolate. Again, you're welcome. Why it matters. Dark chocolate contains flavonoids, which is a type of phytochemical that helps with inflammation, and it also contains magnesium, which helps support mood balance and also helps support blood flow. So, this is your official permission slip to enjoy chocolate in moderation. Number 6, eggs. Eggs are rich in choline, which is a nutrient known for its benefits with memory and learning. So, of course, it supports memory. It also helps with brain signaling. Okay, so we've talked about what's going on in the body and some of the foods that we can incorporate to help our bodies, to help our brain. So let's make it practical now because none of this matters if you leave here thinking, okay, but what do I eat actually? And how do I do this? So here is the simplest way to approach this without having to track everything you're eating. You remember what I said every meal should include? That anchor meal should consist of a protein, a fiber, and a healthy fat. That's it. If you can remember those 3 things, you can start building meals that support your brain, support your energy, and your overall health. Because the protein helps to stabilize your blood sugar and it gives your brain a steady source of fuel. The fiber will help to slow digestion and keep you fuller longer. It supports gut health, which directly impacts brain function. And the healthy fat is what your brain is literally made of. So all of this helps with structure, signaling, and long-lasting energy. And who doesn't want that? So this really is pretty simple. So let me show you what this looks like in real life. So your breakfast example, I'm going to take the one I mentioned earlier, the eggs, the spinach, and the avocado. You've got your protein from the eggs, your fiber from the spinach, and the healthy fat from the avocado. For a main meal like a lunch or a dinner, you could try some salmon or another clean protein, maybe chicken, plus some greens, plus some olive oil. Protein and omega-3s from the salmon. You'll get fiber and antioxidants from the greens, and you'll get the healthy fat from the olive oil. Again, balanced, simple, no overthinking. And then as a quick snack, Greek yogurt, berries and walnuts, protein from the yogurt, fiber and antioxidants from the berries, and you'll get some healthy fat from the walnuts. And bonus, it takes 2 minutes to throw it together. So again, these are just examples. You don't need to eat these exact meals, obviously. What you're doing is learning a pattern. And once you understand the pattern, you can apply it anywhere. You're not memorizing meals or nutrient counts. You don't have to track what you're eating. You can certainly if you want, and it's actually an excellent exercise in nutritional awareness, but you don't have to. What you're doing is building new, better habits. So instead of asking yourself at 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, what should I eat? Start asking, where's my protein? Where's my fiber? Where's my healthy fat? And once you start asking these questions and get into a routine, it'll really start to change how you eat. And you won't have to rely on willpower. You won't have to track every morsel you ingest, and you won't have to start over every Monday. So when you start stacking those choices, meal after meal, day after day, that's when you'll start to feel the difference. Your thinking will be clearer. Your energy will be more stable. You'll have fewer cravings. That is FoodRx, nutrition as medicine in action. And guess what else? You're going to be healthier overall, not just your brain. So here's some quick wins, quick, easy wins. Add some berries and chia seeds to your breakfast. If you're having oatmeal, throw some berries on top and add some walnuts just for good measure. Swap vegetable oil for olive oil. Eat fish 2 times a week if you like fish. Eat a handful of greens daily. So just add it to whatever you're eating. If you've already got your plate made, throw a handful of greens on top. Upgrade your snacks like we talked about. Instead of reaching for the chips at 3 p.m., grab a handful of nuts instead. Speaking of nuts and snacks, fun fact, according to a 2021 study from the University of Michigan, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich adds 33 minutes to your life. True story. The researchers used the Health Nutritional Index to calculate the ingredients in a PBJ, so the peanuts and the fruit, and they determined that it actually had a positive impact on our lifespan. Also, from the same study, one serving of nuts and seeds can add roughly 26 minutes to your life. A hot dog takes away 36 minutes of life. So, the study concluded that by substituting small amounts of processed meats with nuts, fruits, and legumes, that can significantly improve our longevity. So, improve your brain health and live longer. Win win. All right, I'm going to start summarizing now. I want to say that your brain will respond quickly to how you fuel it, either with good fuel or not so good fuel. So that's good news because you don't need a new brain. You won't even need a lobotomy. You just need a few smarter choices repeated consistently. And P.S., you know what else helps improve our brain health? By increasing blood flow to the brain, reducing inflammation, enhancing memory, and lowering the risk of cognitive decline. Anyone? Anyone? That's right, exercise. And it doesn't have to be 60 minutes in the gym every day. It can be 20 minutes a day. It can be squats while you're waiting for the water to boil or while you're watching TV. It can be housework, two birds, one stone. You'll have your exercise and a clean house. You can crank Bon Jovi tunes and dance in your living room. Or how about this? You can join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern for Move It Sister, where we work out for 20 minutes to get your day and week started off right. I know, shameless plug. I'll leave a link to the sign up page in the comments in case you're interested and available at that time. And if you're not available, just like this workshop, there will be a replay that you can access evergreen. So I'm also going to leave a link to my two books that I recently published on Amazon. The first one is FoodRx, Eat Like Your Future Depends on It, as well as the companion cookbook for that FoodRx book. So just more great information for your journey with nutrition as medicine. So that is it for today's workshop. Thank you so much for joining me. And as promised, I'm going to share the links to those two handouts. They are right here. So you can either take a screenshot of this or you just scan the QR codes, whichever is easier. And if neither one of these works for you, just email me at support@55.com and I'll just send them to you. Our next workshop is going to be held on May 19th, same time, same place, 11 o'clock Eastern. And as always, if you're unable to catch it live, there will, of course, be the replay available on my YouTube channel. So I'll see you soon. And remember, the best medicine is already on your plate. Thanks again for joining me. Talk soon.